Hello everybody. I'm just checking if everything is fine. And yeah, it should be. Okay. It should be live right now. And as far as I see, everything is okay. So if something's not right, just you can tell me in the chat and I'll make sure to see it. Okay, so hello again, everybody. We're gonna start right from where we left last time, which is we've created the player, the floor over here, and the player has just the basic movement script, so we can just move around and jump and even crouch. So today we'll be adding some graphics, importing some graphics from the Unity asset store, adding some more animations, also changing the way the crouching works, and we'll see if we have time for more stuff, because there's plenty more stuff we can add. Okay, so let's begin from the Unity asset store, which is accessible from the tab over here. So now we can just write down and look for a particular one, which is called Sunny Land, I believe, Sunny Land, which is a very basic, very nice as well 2D graphic asset. Yeah, it's over here. So for me it looks like it's purchased, so for you it should look more like this. Just click it, and then the blue button to download, and then to import it again. So if you have it downloaded, we can import it. Then the package will show up. If we want to choose what we want to import, we're just gonna import everything into a folder. And now it's in our project tab over here. I also thought we could also add some background, and actually, yeah, yes, let's leave it for now. Just stick to the Sunnyland. Okay, so we could use another tab over here. Actually, no. Okay, let's go back over here. Let's change back to the scene and our player. So for now, this is only we have a collider, which is 2D, and our mesh filter and the mesh renderer is a capsule, which is a 3D object. We would like to change that into a 2D mesh. So we have to remove the component of the capsule mesh collider and the mesh renderer, and now add component, which is going to be a sprite mask and also a sprite renderer. Can move them up here so it's just easier to access it. And now, so right now we cannot see the graphics of our character because it's the sprite over here is chosen none. So let's go to Sunnyland, go to artwork, sprites, player, and let's choose an idle one just for measurement. Choose the player and just drag and drop from here to the sprite. And as you can see, it's like very tiny. Oh, sorry, it's not here. It's to the sprite renderer, not here. It's like very tiny. So we want to change the pixels per unit of these characters. So we can just choose everything, and in the inspector tab we can change the pixels per unit to like 16 and hit apply. So now we can see a cute fox in 2D, which will serve as our character model. So next thing we can do is change the capsule collider size to match the fox actual size. So we can just click edit collider, and then these green boxes will appear, so we can just like drag a little bit down so it's a bit smaller. And we don't really have to care that much for the tail, maybe just a little bit more. Also, it's very important to change the offset back to 0, 0. And actually resize it again. It should be fine like that. So we can have the offset a little bit changed on the y-axis, but let's leave it on 0 on the x. Okay, so now if we wanted to create some animations, so let's first begin to create a simple animation for our character that will serve as an idle animation, which we won't change yet into like which won't transition into other animations yet, but we'll do that later. Just for now, create a simple one which will just be an idle one. So let's go back to assets, create a new folder so we have some more space and like categorized. Let's name it animations, head to it, and now we need to create an animation controller which we can call player, and also hit right click, create, and an animation which we can call idle. Now go to the player and we have to add a component which will be the animation controller, animator, and then the controller which we called player, we have to add it onto the controller over here. Now we need to open a new tab which we can add like over here. So we have this little list over here. You have to hit it, add tab, and there is an animation. Go to player, double click it. Yeah, it should open up if you just double click the animation controller over here. It should open up. Okay, so right now if we go to the player, let's open the tab animation because we don't have it open over here. Add tab and hit it animation. Okay, so now if you wanted to create a new animation, we have to go to the animation tab, hit create. We have the idle anim, so we can just override it. Yeah, okay, so just override it and it should work perfectly. So now our main animation over here will be the idle one, which goes from the entry. There is a transition straight to the idle, and let's just leave it over here so it loops always. Yeah, okay, so now what we have to do is we need to record the animation. So we are doing this with just making with changing sprites from 1 to 4 continuously, which will create a simple animation. So in order to do that, we need to add a new tab, which will be a project tab, and make some space for it so we can have open the animation and the project tab at the same time. Hit animations, to the Sunnyland, artwork, sprites, player, and go to our idle. Then choose every single one from here and drag and drop into the animation, into our idle animation. So now we can see these 4 shapes, and we have to drag them a little bit out so they are a bit more spread. Like, yeah, let's just see, just for measurement, how it works. Let's just spread it back to 40 milliseconds, sorry. And then there is a little play button over here, so we can click it and see the preview of how the animation works. So if you can drag it a little bit out more, the animation will be a bit slower, and if you do it on like that, then it's gonna be faster. So it's just up to you how quickly you want the fox to move. I'll just leave it like on 40 milliseconds. Okay, so this is our first animation. This, okay, you can just pause it here. It's working right now, and right now we don't really, like, our character doesn't turn around, it doesn't like walk, it doesn't jump, it doesn't crouch, but we can add different animations, and the animation controller will be our like a sheet which will show us every transition from the idle animation or from other states, our other animation states, from like idle to movement, from idle to jumping. You get the point. I believe. Okay, so for now, let's just create every single animation. We will need the idle, the jump, and the crouch. Sorry, the idle, the crouch, and the run. The jump we'll leave for later, because this is a bit more specific one. I'll show you what I mean later. So let's go back to the run folder right now. Let's hit every single one of these sprites. Let's change the pixels per unit to 16 again. And let's create a new clip. So click on idle over here in the animation tab. Create a new clip. Let's name it, oh wait, we want it in the animations tab. So let's just in the animations folder. So let's just go back here, then create a new clip, and then name it run. Okay, it's created. So let's go back to run, then drag and drop, then spread them out, and see if the preview is fine. So for me, this is a bit too slow. I want the fox to move a bit quicker. So let's just drag it like that. And this is much better for me. Okay, so we will just leave it here. Create again a new animation, a new clip, which is going to be a crouch. And again, go to crouch, pick these two because this is only 2 sprites, animations, change the pixels per unit to 16, apply, and again add it over here, and then just drag them around. So the preview is very important here because, as you can see, this is only 2 sprites, and if the animation ends over here, then the second sprite will stay on just for like barely even a moment. So it's just gonna blink from here back over to the beginning. So we cannot really see the second frame. So what we have to do is add the first frame as well, like over here. So then it's gonna look much clearer. So he wags the tail around. And the timing is okay for me, so I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so we have these three animations. Now I'm gonna just show you how the jumping animations look like. So this is only 2 sprites as well, but they are very specific. This one is wait, I'm gonna show you the preview of it so you can actually get the idea. Oh yeah, and just change the pixels per unit as well right away. So the first sprite is a fox jumping upwards, and the second sprite is going to be the fox, sorry, not like that, the fox falling down. You get the idea. He jumps up, and when he begins to decrease the height, then he's gonna change the sprite into this one. So what we have to do about that, we need to create 2 different animations for the jump. So and in the transitions we need to make sure that the fox, when his velocity is additive, we need it to be the first sprite over here, and when it's the velocity is below 0, we will change it into this one, so he descends. So let's create a new animation, a new clip again. Falling, let's just call it fall. Where is it? Sunnyland, jump. So the falling animation is this one. It's just going to be static, this image every time, and this is what we want. And then there is the second animation, which is jump, and we will just drag and drop this one. Okay, so now in our animation controller, we're gonna see all these 5 animation clips over here. We will need to arrange them and change the transitions on how they work. Can we do that now? Let me think. No, okay. So first of all, we need to create some parameters. When you go to the animator, we can see layers and parameters. We go to parameters. We're going to add a new one, which is going to be a boolean. And now we want to create a true-false statement if our character is running and if the character is crouching, or if it's idle, but we don't need to check if it's idle because we can just see if it's crouching or running or jumping. Okay, so let's create all these 3 booleans. So running, another one which is going to be crouching, and also jumping. So therefore they are all false, so we don't check any boxes over here. Okay, so now let's just create the transitions. We will go to the code later. Let's create the transitions. So we can jump basically from whatever state, from whatever animation, anytime we like. So we have to go to, we need to link any state, which is going to mean basically if we are crouching, if we are jumping, sorry, not jumping, but but running or idle, we can go to make a transition and jump. Makes sense, right? So this transition, so we hit right click, make transition, and then click on the jump. Then we need to go and press the new line that is created, the transition, and set up some things over here. So currently our transition has a thing called exit time, which is basically how to explain it. It's like before changing into another animation, it has to finish playing the first one, and we don't want it. We want to override the animation that is currently playing into a new one. So we uncheck the fixed duration. The has exit time has to be off as well. The transition duration has to be 0. And now we need a condition to allow the transition to change, because if it's not going to change, then it's gonna go into the jump animation all the time. So we add a new one into the conditions, and then we have to check if he is jumping. If he is jumping, then basically we want to make a transition over here. I just reminded myself we need to also create a new another boolean, which is falling, so we can see if the player is falling, perhaps, because in every case we have to make sure that the player is not doing something else. Okay, so because from any state he can just go into jumping animation all the time. So even if he's falling, he could also change into jumping if the condition wasn't properly set up. Okay, so from any state, from the jump, we have to let's see. Yeah, okay, so falling over here. Okay, yeah, because we don't want to these two to be from any state. We want them to go from idle, and we want the fall to be from any state or from jumping. Let's just set up from jumping. So make a transition from jumping into fall. So we have to uncheck the has exit time, uncheck the fixed duration, set to 0, and add a new condition, and actually 2 of them, because this is quite important. We need to make sure that we are not jumping anymore and we are falling. So jumping is false and falling is true. And then the same thing goes about this transition. So this transition. So if jumping is true and falling is false. Okay, and then from falling we will need to just make a transition straight into idle and just uncheck these 2. Then to also make sure that he is not falling anymore. So falling is false and jumping is false as well. So whatever the character is doing right now, if he is crouching or running or idle, he can just hit space, then from the any state, so basically any single one of these, we'll transition into jumping. So the jumping animation, which is this fox star is jumping up, this one. Then from here, when he starts to descend, then it will change into the falling animation, which is the other one. And then when he falls to the ground and the condition is met, as in falling is false and jumping is false, then he will go back to idle, and from idle he can just start walking or crouching again. I hope you get the idea how it works. So again, we have to do the same thing about crouching and running, but this is much more simple, I believe. Okay, so we need to create a transition from idle into crouching, which will have also no exit time, no fixed duration, 0 transition duration as well. Change the condition into crouching is true. And also we need to make a transition back to idle whenever our character is not crouching anymore. So again, 0, make a condition, and crouching is false. And the same thing goes about running, so make a transition into the running, make a transition back from the running into idle. So the condition is met whenever our character is running, and it's met. The condition is not met when he is not running anymore. And also uncheck the exit time, uncheck the fixed duration, change the transition duration to 0 for both transitions. Okay, and this should be fine. We could also make a transition from crouching into running if you wanted to. And I believe this is a good option. Yeah, let's just make a transition from crouching into running. So if the player starts to run, then we will override the crouching animation into the running animation. Because we don't really have an animation if the player is crouching and running at the same time. So just make a transition into the running one. So the condition, if he is running, it's gonna change into running. Okay, I think this is it. Let's just go back to our scripts right now, because we have to set everything up now in C#. So let's create, let's just go back to movement script. We can just use it as a good base because we have the movement over there, so we can just add animations over there as well. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is to change the way that our character plays. So for now, it's just gonna play the idle animation all the time, and the character doesn't really turn around, and it's just gonna always look into the into the right side of the screen, because this is how the sprite is drawn. So if you want to change it, we have the option over here which is called flip, and if we flip on the x-axis, then the fox turns around. So we want to make sure that whenever our player presses A or D to move left or right, we want the flip to change accordingly. Okay, so let's go to the code. We need to add a sprite renderer. Yes, a sprite renderer component over here, which has the flip boolean. So let's just go to here and write down public sprite renderer. Let's just name it SR. Then save this script. Go over here. Wait for the compiler. It compiles, so we can have to add the sprite renderer over here. So let's just drag it from here down into the SR. And in this moment, so if our player presses A, he moves to the left. So we want to change the flip X to be true, because if we flip X, as in this is a boolean, so we can just hit it true or false. If it's true, then our character will be looking to the left side, and if it's false, it's gonna look into the right side because it's not flipped. And if it's drawn to the right side, then we will just leave it on false. So on A, we have to make sure that the sr.flipX, which is the boolean of the x flipping property, is true, because he's gonna look to the left side. And if the player presses D, then sr.flipX has to change to false. We don't really want to change it whenever he's not holding the A or D button, because it's gonna be strange if the player stops moving to the left side and the character is just gonna flip automatically to the right side again. So we can just leave it like that. And let's see how it works. As you can see, the character has the idle animation and flips it as well. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go to how the animations will work. So first of all, we need to add a new class over here, the component which is the animator. So let's just write down public animator anim. I'm just gonna name it like that. And again, just drag and drop it over here. The compiler goes, okay, boom. And then in our anim, okay, so we need to set down the rules. So when our character when our character is running. He is running whenever the player holds A or D key. So either here or here. So in both cases, we want to tell the animation that we need to change it into that the movement, the parameter in the animator over here, the running boolean is true when he is holding A or D button. Whenever he releases the button, it's just going to go back to false. So it goes back into the idle or any other state. Okay, so we have to write down anim dot setBool. There is a function like that, and then we have to input two parameters, which is the string name of the parameter. So in this case, running. This is case sensitive as well, so be careful for that. We have to put it into these brackets, running, and then after a comma we have to write down the value, so if it's true or false. In this case we are running, so this is true. We can copy this and just write it down as well into the D key input as well, and into the else, where we whenever our player does not hold A or D button, we want the running to set back to false, because this boolean is no longer true, because the player doesn't really run right now. Okay, so this is the jumping part. We will leave it for now because, as I said, the jumping works a little bit differently. I want to make sure that the player checks, the game checks if the player is right now ascending or descending. In either of these cases, the animation has to change accordingly. So we can just leave it like that for now. And into the crouching script over here, we need to remove the scale changing of ours. So we just remove this, and if he is holding the S button, then we want the animation, the boolean of crouching to be set to true. And in the other case, so if he is not holding down the S button, the crouching boolean to be false. I believe we can just check it now if it works. Okay, so right now this has some issue with the exit time. I believe I forgot to set it, maybe. Yeah, but both crouching, which transitions into running if I hold both S and A at the same time, and he runs and he crouches. I can hold it as long as I want, and he will just loop the animation all the time. Okay, so I'll just check the animator, which was the running transition. Yes, okay, so this has the exit time and the duration and the transition duration as well set. So it had to end the animation, as you can see. Now it should work just perfectly. So whenever I just hit the key, it straight overrides the idle animation into the running animation, which is perfect. This is what we wanted. So now about the jumping. So right now we need to change between two parameters, two animations, which is jumping and falling. So we go, so like whenever the player presses space, first he has to ascend up. So this is our jumping, and then he descends slowly back down, which is the falling animation. So in order to do that, we will need to do two more ifs over here. So if we need to check the velocity of on the y-axis of our player. So if rb.velocity.y is greater than 0, so the velocity on the y-axis is greater than 0, so he's moving up. So falling is false. Anim.setBool falling is false, and anim.setBool jumping is true. Okay. And in another case, so if else, else if rb.velocity dot y is lower than 0, then he's descending. So we have to just switch these two lines. So falling has to be true, and then jumping has to be false. And also the last case, so we can just write down else. So if it's not greater or less than 0, so it has to be 0. So if the velocity is 0, then we want both these animations to finish and go back to idle. So anim.setBoth, just copy them down, and then set both of these to false, because he's not either falling nor jumping, because he's just static on the y-axis. He's just standing on the floor probably. Okay, let's see if this is going to work. Yes, I believe so. Let's just see. So I'm just gonna press space. He's ascending and now he's descending, so the animation works just perfectly. I'm just going to change the gravity over here to 3, let's say, and change its jump height. Oh, sorry, let's just turn off the game and change it. So just go back to 3 and then change the jump height to like 15, maybe not 15, but 10. Let's see. Yeah, it works just perfectly. I think this is like very good starter point to make a platformer game. Okay, so we've covered the animations, we've covered the importing, we've covered how to set everything up. I wanted also to make sure we could add the camera follow. 1 second. I'm just gonna check something. Okay, I believe we won't really have enough time to make the camera follow right now. Actually, let's just make it. Okay, let's make a new script. Let's go back to assets. Create a new script over here. Create C# script. Let's name it camera follow, and open it up. We can just reload solution. Okay, this works. Okay, yeah. So we have now two tabs over here, so the movement and the camera follow. So there is another built-in function from Unity, which is called fixed update. So there is a difference. So as you can see, the update is called once per frame, so it just updates every single time a frame is happening. And then there is an update called fixed update, which is called every 0.3 second, I believe. It's a delay that you can set in Unity to change to match it however you want it, but I believe it's 0.3 in default. Okay, so we need to have two parameters over here, which is going to be, we can just remove these two for now, and write down public game object. So this holds, we can actually name it transform. So we can call it target. Okay, actually, okay, yeah, target. And then, do we need anything else? Yeah, it's fine. Just the target. Just go back to the Unity. Go to the main camera. Attach the camera follow script over here, and our target will be the player. From here, just drag and drop. And now we want to change the position of our camera, which is right now set to these parameters. We want the Z to go a little bit back, like -5 or something, to move the same way the character is moving with an offset. So like the camera right now is just straight down on top of the player, I believe. No, it's not straight down on top of the player, but we want it to be created with an offset. So we will also create a public vector3 over here, public vector3 offset, and we can also now make sure the camera goes with like -5 on the Z axis, and let's just like drag it a little bit up as well. So go to camera and like let's just set 2 for now. We will change that later in the scene. Okay, so go back to the script again. So every time this this function will be called, it will change the position of the camera to which is this camera follow attached to match the target's position, adding an offset. So okay, so we need to change the camera position. So game object from this from the lowercase, which is referred to the game object that this script is attached to. So basically to our camera dot transform dot position equals, and we have to create a new vector. So a new vector3, and now we can add the target dot position, which is also a vector3, plus the offset, and just close it down. Isn't it working? Oh yeah, sorry, my bad, because we have to create a new vector3. Actually, we don't really have to create a new one. We can just write it down like that. It should work as well. Because in other case, we will have to give 3 arguments, which is the x, y, and the z axis. So we could just like go down and press, type down target position to the x plus offset to the x, and so on. Okay, let's see if this will work. Yeah, okay, so right now we can see the camera is following our player. We can change the offset to match however you just like it. Like move it a little bit to the right, move it a bit up or down, and just have it like that. Just however you want to set it up. Okay, this works just smoothly. I like it. Okay, in the next webinar, which will be in 2 days, we will cover some more movement stuff. We will add sprinting. We will also add a new animation for sprinting, which will be basically a quicker version of the running animation that we have right now. And also, actually, I won't spoil it yet. Let's just leave it a mystery of what's next. But there will be some more nice stuff that we can add into the game to make the platformer look even better. Okay, so I hope you've learned something new. I hope everything is clear. If not, just you can message me on the next stream or like right now if you have any questions. And yeah, have a nice evening or day, whatever time zone you are in. See you again.